and then we'll look at a graph of what that looks like. So alternatively, this will go to our first graph. I think pictures are sometimes worth 1,000 words. So, currently a fixed rate bond issue with an quote unquote all-in rate, meaning factoring all related costs, would be approximately 3.61%. And if you wanted to lower your payment and basically spread that difference over, it would result in an annual payment of about $615,000 or $30,000 reduction from current budgeted or not to exceed debt service. Again, we need to remember that $645,000 is a current budgeted and a current not to exceed. It is not your payment. It will not necessarily be your payment.
So then in 22 and 23, when it turns over, it could be 5%,
It could be, yes.
and our payment would be
$645.
There you go.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So what is it, what is it today? What is it today?
What is what
The
today?
payment?
645, 643.
So we're paying, we're gonna pay 645 on the 2.48% interest rate?
Yes,
We're paying off part of the loan,
yes.
and that's why it goes down.
So even at the
Less
2.48%?
principal to pay interest.
Yeah, okay.
The loan was structured such that the
Like a
combination of
traditional
interest and required principal installments was $645,000 level or not to exceed. The payment would be less to the extent that the variable rate is less than 5%.
So it'll either be 645 every year for the entire 25 years of the loan, or it'll be
Lower.
No.
lower than 645?
Correct, it will never, yes,
It'll never be higher
Never
than
be higher than that.
645,000,
and it could be lower.
but it could be lower.
And the estimate for a bond is 615 every year. That's your
Correct.
last bullet.
Correct. So basically, you're picking
You're-
645 or better, or 615.
But ideally, we probably would not be able to get an interest loan like that from a bank because of the way the rates are. So it'd be more advantageous to do a bond. Is that what you're saying, or is that,
I don't know that I know that.
okay?
I mean, if you say, let's look at the graph on page.
So if you knew that, you'd be a millionaire.
Yes.
You'd be more than if you knew what the
Yeah,
market.
if I started forecasting interest rates for you, you should throw me out of the room.
Actually, when you're older. Sure.
Okay. I think, let's go to page 4. I think your graph is really easier.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the repayment schedule from, I skipped 2018 because probably by the time you get there, you're probably going to have already made your December payment or pretty darn close. So the top line is the blue line. It's your existing bank loan at the cap rate. That first couple of years it's yellow. It would be blue if they're just on top of each other. Okay. So your current not to exceed debt service is $645,000. The yellow line is the existing bank loan, assuming the 20-year average. That was at 3%. Okay. So yes, you're still going to continue to pay the $645 through 2021 because because of the fixed interest rate. But if the variable rate that it would be today would be the variable rate it would be for the remaining term, you can see your payment would drop by the gold line and the green line. They're on top of each other because, again, current rate is basically the same as the 20-year average. Would drop to below $500,000 and would basically steadily increase. The red line is what you could pick, call it a pick really. If you say, I understand there's upside, that we might only pay the yellow line or the green line, but we just want our payment to be $615-ish, whatever the actual bond rate would be, then you could marry, if you will, a pick or set your payment at the $615,000 number.
So there are three things that could happen. this could rise to 5% and we could pay $645 a year. It could not rise to 5%, stay at around 3%, and we would be saving money. Or we could go for a bond, and that would be kind of in between both, and pay about $615. But here's the problem, none of us have a crystal ball.
I know, I agree, and
So
I'm
how
not,
do you make that decision?
The rate was higher than 615.
I guess I want to be careful using the word savings. Because, I mean, they're budgetary relief, or it's a reduction in potential payment. But I wouldn't want to be quoting savings against 645, because it's not savings. If it was a fixed rate loan, if you had a fixed rate loan today, and your payment was 645, and you could do a bond issue or any other bank loan and lower your payment, you know, fixed for fixed, that's savings. I would do that every day. Here, the difference between the blue line, please, I'm just trying to be frank with you. The difference between the blue line and the red line, or even, you know, the yellow line, is a reduction, call it reduction in exposure, but it's just not savings. But if you say, I want to know that my payment's going to be $615 and it's not going to be $645, then yes, you do the bond issue. And remember, I've presented all this based on it being at 5% and staying there, or it being at the 20-year average of 3% and staying there. We all know it's going to be somewhere in the middle.
But back at the time you done it, the bonding wasn't even an issue.
Wasn't
It's not-
close.
Right.
Okay.
Well, what about now? I mean, what are people doing now when they have to make these choices? I mean, a lot of municipalities are going for bonds. I mean, the market conditions are vastly different than they were 3 years ago.
If we were starting, if you were doing, and I'd say do the same thing right now. If you were doing a $10 million, let's say you don't even have this yet. If you were doing a $10 million financing right now, people always talk to me, well, what should I do? Should I do a bank loan or a bond issue? You know, my answer always is, I don't know and I don't care. I know that sounds tough, but the answer is you want to do what gives you the best result. And I don't know what bond market's the bond market. I don't know what banks will offer until you go through a process of doing an RFP, getting the proposals in, getting banks up. I mean, we get bank proposals in that range 0.5% or more. So, you know, there are banks out there who will be aggressive. I don't know who they are on any given day. That's why we go through a process of doing an RFP to, 20 plus banks. And go through that process, get the proposals in. Some people might say it's a waste of time. Well, it's not a waste of time. If a bank's gonna offer you a proposal that's better than the bond market. So I'm not gonna make a decision today of what you should do. The proof will be after I get the proposals in and compare them to what's available in the bond market. I know I gotta roll the eyes on I don't care. What I mean by that is, I'm a financial advisor. I'm a fiduciary to you. You don't want me to be jaded to do a bank loan or a bond issue. What are you doing? You're doing a financing. Don't ever talk about doing a bank or a bond. You're doing a financing, or you're doing your refinancing. The vehicle that you use to get there is the one that gives you the best result for your policies and objectives.
But I guess what I'm asking you is, this is your business, is to advise people.
Yes.
You have your finger on the pulse of what's going on now in the economy and in the markets. What are the trends? Where are things going?
It's still 50-50.
Bank or bond?
Yep.
But
And I won't know
what would trigger one to be better than the other? I mean, if the Fed raises the rate again, or if inflation keeps going up? I mean, what are the indicators that would tell us kind of which direction to go in, or at least suggest which direction would be better?
When the proposal comes back from the bank. Banks are not as precise as the market, so if it's almost like, think of it like your contracting bids. You don't really pick who your contractor is going to be. You go through a process, and one day, for one project, a contractor is going to be aggressive. Another time, he might be less aggressive. Maybe it has to do with what work he has. Same thing as with a bank. If a bank is hungry to make loans or hungry to do business with you, they're gonna be more aggressive compared to another bank that's sort of filled up with loans on that given month or day and doesn't offer you a very aggressive proposal. So,
So if we end up with you,
Hmm?
you're going to go out to 20 banks and
yes,
some bond people
yep,
and tell us what's the best deal.
exactly what I did in 2015.
So you won't tell us, they'll tell us. But I guess what
Well,
I'm trying to say
I'll
for
tell
you
you.
is,
You're gonna tell us the end of the story.
Right.
Tell us
They
what they-
predict, they write the story, you tell us the
I
end of
report
the
the story.
And
That's
it's
all you
very
do.
possible what we have now may be the best option.
Yes,
But I guess what I'm trying to
Why are
ask
we
you
going through the
is,
exercise?
you do this all the time, what are the trends? I mean, what are banks offering now?
Look at
I'm
your
sorry?
20-year chart,
Excuse me.
Marla.
What are banks offering now for these kinds of loans?
Uh, I guess I answered that it's 50/50 of what's the better financing vehicle.
No, never mind.
So what we're looking at right now, just so we're clear, I think the concern is that we're in at the game right now at 6:45.
Yes,
Okay,
not to exceed.
exactly. So anything different is a win.
Yes,
So the project has been budgeted at 6:45 for the extent of the note to be paid. What we're looking at from a 20-year trend is typically the history will depict the future, unless some catastrophic something happens. But we've seen this catastrophic, but there's a recovery in the catastrophic trend.
sure.
So throughout that, you're looking at either a fixed bond or sticking with the note that you have that has a variable rate that will slide up, just like your retirement plans do. You know, no one knows what your retirement plan is going to look like at the end. You have some type of goal in mind. We all wish we could be where that goal was every moment, but it's not going to get there. Anything that we do is going to be better, regardless if we stay where we're
Yes.
at or if we go with the bond.
You'd be locking in a better rate.
Right. The unlikeliness
Some people
of
call it
being,
hedging.
the
hedging the
unlikeliness
rate.
of it getting to 5% is historically unlikely.
Yes. Because we
It's
look-
not guaranteed unlikely, but it's very highly improbable to get to that.
right. And you know that your budget is not gonna take a hit from this loan budgetarily.
You're already there.
And it's structured that with the interest at the cap, at the 5%, your payment will not be higher than 645.
So let me rephrase my earlier question. Have you sent out RFPs to any banks in the last month?
Yes.
What kind of rates are you seeing coming back?
We got a low threes for 10 years.
For what type of
Can
bond
you do
rate?
10 years on a municipal loan? Can you do 10 years on this kind of loan?
Oh, yes. Some banks will give you 20-year fixes. But it's interesting. You get a bank that gives you a 20-year fixed rate loan. Or you could get a bank that offers you a 7 or 10-year fixed rate, again, variable thereafter, it's subject to a cap. It can be that, let's say a bank came back and offered us a 20-year rate of 361. Straight on top of the bond issue. You might say, great, I'll take it. But you could have a bank that offers you 3% for 10 years, subject to a cap of, let's say, somewhere in the low fives. If you blend those together, again, 3% for 10 years, and assuming a worst-case cap, 5.25, those could blend on a worst-case basis to 3.4%. So you'd still be looking at it and saying, oh, but I still have variable exposure. No, but if you look at it from a worst-case basis, the 3 blended with the 3 for 10 years, and the 5.25 for the second 10 years blend to a worst case of 340. I'm not doing math like that at work, but you see what I'm trying to say is, you take that every day versus the set it, forget it 3.61%.
So
Because
if
it's a
you-
lower, all-in blended, not to
Yeah,
exceed rate.
so taking there's a blended nature to the existing loan that we have.
Correct.
So if you were to look at that blending, which is the 2.4 4 something for the next N years, and then a max of something. That blended rate is lower than the bond rate that you're looking at, probably.
Assuming the cap, the blended rate is higher than the bond rate right now,
Okay.
because 3 of the years have run off on the 248.
Okay,
Could you
but
never blend
isn't
going
there also cost involved with getting the loan?
Absolutely.
Getting the bond, where there's
Absolutely.
no longer any, we already paid the cost associated with the loan, right?
Yes, so to the extent that if we would move forward with an RFP, and we included, I think we certainly include Fulton Bank in the RFP, if they came back as the best proposal, we wouldn't even have to redocument the loan, you just do an amendment or an allonge to notes, you know, it'd be more expansive, but it'd be the same core document that we did to extend the draw period. If XYZ Bank gave us the best proposal, you'd still have to redocument the loan, you'd have to go through the ordinance, and go through all the closing documents and DCD proceedings. And you would just move forward with the bank loan, or if you decided to move forward with the bond issue, you know, that's a more involved process.
And with our current financing, there's no prepayment penalty.
Right.
And we're not blocking, we could refinance at any time, we could pay it off at any time with no penalty.
Correct.
Yet with the bond issue, are we not, aren't we locked in?
There'd
for
be a 5-year no
a
repayment.
5 years, so we're locked in, so if we get the bond, you know, if we would get Explorer bond, we can't make any changes
For 5 years.
for 5
5
years,
years.
and you're locked in. You're just, whatever it is,
Correct.
whether it's a good thing, bad thing, you're locked in for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
There's no flexibility. But whereas with this loan, there's no prepayment penalties.
Correct,
Thank you.
correct.
One comment if I could, Ron Kerr with Gravel Pipe. The one thing that we have to remember, and Terry will remember this, is when we set this financing up, the idea was to keep it low in the front because the current residents that were in the sewer program had to bear the entire brunt of this. So with the idea that we get it low up front, if it goes to 5 later, so be it, we'll have more people in the system.
Maybe.
Spread the cost around. Well, within 7 years, if we don't have more people in the system, we're doing something wrong. I mean, it's, at this point, we probably have, what's our projection now, Terry? 2 years we'll have new people in, a year and a half?
It should be, only the one development.
Yeah, we only want
So-
39 homes.
So
And
we've
we
got,
also have Fulmer, Riverside, and Abington. That's
Yeah.
projected at, what,
Right.
75 to 100? And then you have the 41 with the reduced track. So
so I'm
there's,
figuring, I mean, it sounds
Yeah.
like you wanna rebid this in the winter, so that in the spring, we can start the collection system. So collection system, what, year and a half?
Tried that.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe a
So by
little
the end of
bit
2
better.
years from now, maybe, we've got not just this other development, we've got other people coming on. And about a year after that is when the 2.48 ends. So if we do anything now, and that's the way we planned this, well, we thought that we'd people on board sooner. But
We did.
the idea was not to encumber the current residents any more than he absolutely had to, bare minimum. And that's what made that loan work. And we could have made it, you know, more, we could have raised it even higher, and we pay it off sooner and all that, but again, the current residents had to bear the brunt now, nothing you can do about that. But going forward, there's no sense, in my opinion, unless there's some substantial savings down the road. I'm speaking against you, I know you're trying to do a job here, but in my opinion, it's like, why would you even consider having an increase to the people that are already had to bear all this cost themselves? If it's more later on, so be it. There's more people to share the load.
Well, our game plan was never to increase it no more than what we had it.
Right.
We had it figured out that it would cover this
Right, and
loan.
we had to.
Yes.
This covers it.
It had to be.
But let's say, for instance, this goes to, I'm hearing 3.6, 3.7. I mean, I did a quick sample. If it went to just 3.48, 1%, in the next, it goes through 2022 for the 7 year? Okay.
22.
So for 3.5 years, we'd be having to pay 1% more than we are now. That's $100 grand a year.
Well, it could,
That's
it's
got-
likely to go to 3.48% after 2023. It could.
Oh, we could move after.
On this.
Yeah, my point is, for the next the next 2.5 or 3.5 years, we would be paying $100,000 more per year, without question, at least. If it's more than 3.48, it's gonna go higher than that. Someone's gotta pay for that. And since there's no new people in there yet, the current residents in the system would have to bear that brunt. That's $26 a quarter. A little over $100 a
Let
year.
the
Okay.
gentleman
Yes.
finish his talk,
So-
please.
This is a
Do
point.
you
Okay.
have anything new to say, because you've had more than 2 minutes?
Okay.
He hasn't finished yet.
Okay, so the graphical presentation was on 4. The numbers corresponding to that on page 3. And
Oh, I know that.
What I think I want to get to is ultimately break even. You know, what is the break even variable rate that you would need to achieve to basically match what would be available in the bond market today? Okay, so that's what I want to get to here. So the table on page 3, I started as the fixed rate bond, the estimated current market, and that's at 3.61%. We talked about that annual debt service would be about $615,000. I know it's a tough number to look at, but I think it's the way you want to look at it. The total debt service based upon that bond for the remaining 22 years for the $10 million, well, $9.6 million loan, would, you can see, be a little over $14 million. I know it's a hard number to look at, but it's what it is. You know that. So now let's look at the comparisons of the 2015 note in box with 2 and 3. 2015 note, assuming the cap rate, the interest rate after 6/1/22, you assume 5%. The corresponding LIBOR, I'm going to talk about these because I think this is key to remember too. The corresponding LIBOR, what would LIBOR need to be to have your variable rate go to 5%? The answer is 5.1%. So we all know, assuming the cap, the average annual debt service is about $645,000, and your total payments would be, $14,700,000. So that's your $30,000 higher than the bond, and about $700,000 more of exposure, not savings, not risk, yes, not mandatory payments. So then, box 4 and 5, 2015 note, assuming the current variable rate would be 2.94%. That corresponds to a LIBOR rate of 2.07%, which is what it is today. The average annual debt service, now I say average because I averaged it, because you remember the line that was sweeping upward. The average annual debt service would be about $566,000. In comparison to the $615,000 on the bond, it's about $50,000 less than you pay on the bond. So if you did the bond, married the bond, set it and forget it, if your actual experience would have been the current variable rate, in that case, you'd be paying $50,000 more than you'd be paying if your actual experience was the current variable rate.
And that's assuming it would stay at that for the entire life of the loan,
Absolutely,
which is unlikely to.
right.
So this would
Just
be-
as it's unlikely it's
this
going to
would
go to
be-
5 and stay there.
That's right, so this would be like the when donkeys fly scenario.
Sure. But the total reduction there is $1 million.
Right.
Right.
That would be great.
Would be great. The box 6 and 7,